Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever get that feeling like your birthday, like the actual date, might be more than just, a day on the calendar, like it's somehow, I don't know, hinting at something deeper, maybe even a path laid out just for you? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. This whole idea of birthdays and destiny, and it all started with this text we came across called Texto Calado. It's got some pretty interesting ideas about how your birth date might actually have some kind of spiritual significance.
Hmm.
And to make their case, they bring in teachings from Jesus himself. Like that parable, the parable of the lost sheep. The shepherd leaves the whole flock, the 99, just to go find that one lost sheep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Texto Colado uses that story to show how much each person matters to God.
Mm.
Like even our birthdays might be these little guideposts on our own unique paths.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And it doesn't stop there. The text goes on to mention all these different verses from the Bible talking about God having this plan for our lives, down to the smallest detail. Like, remember that one from Luke? Luke 12.7? It says that even the hairs on our heads are numbered by God.
Wow.
It really makes you think about how deeply connected we are to his purpose.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mm.
I never thought about it quite like that before. And there are other verses too, right? Like there's that one about Jeremiah being chosen to be a prophet even before he was born.
Exactly.
And then there's that Psalm 139.1c, that one that talks about how all our days were written in God's book before we even lived them.
Right.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. Like our lives are all part of this massive, intricate plan.
Yeah, and this is where understanding the historical and cultural context becomes so important. See, back in ancient Israel, numbers and dates, they weren't just about keeping track of time. They were full of symbolism, and they held this deep religious meaning. So when we're looking at these ideas about birthdays and destiny, we have to remember that in the world of the Bible, dates were more than just dates. They were almost like, I don't know, a way of understanding the spiritual world.
So we've been talking about this whole idea that birthdays could have this hidden meaning, like they're pointing us in a certain direction. But Texto Colada gets even more specific. It actually dives into what certain birthdays, like specific dates, might mean. I bet you're dying to know what it says about yours, like March 3rd, for instance.
Right, yeah, March 3rd.
What's the deal with that one?
Well, they link that one to creativity and having this
Yeah.
deep spiritual insight. They even connect it to the burning bush. You know, that whole image of divine revelation.
Oh, right.
People born on March 3rd just have this special connection to the spiritual side of things.
Makes you wonder if they're more likely to see burning bushes, right?
Who knows?
Okay, so what about May 5th? What does it say about people born then?
May 5th is interesting. They associate that one with grace, divine favor, maybe even miracles happening in their lives.
Really?
And they draw a parallel there to Psalm 5.12, which talks about how God protects good people with his favor. So maybe people born on May 5th, they just have this extra layer of, I don't know, blessing and protection following them around.
Interesting. It makes you think, okay, what about July 7th? I've always thought the number 7 just sounded kind of mystical,
Right. Me too. And Texto Colado seems to agree.
Yeah.
They say July 7th is all about completeness, like this spiritual quest guiding other people. And that probably comes from how important the number 7 is in Revelation, talking about wholeness and divine order. So it's like they're saying folks born on July 7th might be drawn to these roles where they're helping others or showing them the way.
That's really interesting. Okay, how about September 9th?
September 9th. That one's linked to wisdom, seeing the bigger picture, really understanding God's plan as it plays out. And the text even connects this to Ecclesiastes 3.1, that verse about there being a time for everything. So you've got to wonder, are people born on September 9th just naturally good at connecting the dots, seeing how everything fits together?
It does make you wonder. Okay, last but not least, we've got to talk about December 25th.
December 25th? Yeah, I don't think it's a huge surprise what they say about that one.
Probably not.
Miracles, divine love, thinking of others, spreading joy. They even bring up John 3.16, which is the ultimate verse about God's love for everyone. It's almost like they're saying people born on Christmas Day, they just have a little extra bit of that Christmas spirit in them, a natural instinct to be generous and share joy with people.
It does make sense. So we've gone through these specific birthdays, but Texto Colado doesn't stop there. They actually say you don't have to be born on one of these particular dates to be, quote unquote, chosen. There are other ways to tell, other things to look out for in your life.
Exactly. And that's where it gets really interesting. It goes beyond just looking at your birth date and opens up this whole other realm of experiences that might be pointing you towards your purpose. It's about recognizing those little moments, those feelings you get, those themes that seem to keep popping up in your life that might mean something more.
So tell me more about those other signs Texto Collado talks about, the ones that tell you you might be, chosen, even if your birthday isn't one of those specific dates.
Well, they talk about some pretty relatable experiences, things a lot of people have probably felt at some point. Like, have you ever just felt different? Like you don't quite fit in, like you're wired a little differently than everyone else?
Oh, absolutely. Like you're meant for something more, but you haven't quite figured out what that is yet.
Yeah, exactly. And Texto Collado actually connects that feeling to the story of Joseph in the Bible. Remember how his dreams and everything, they made him different from his brothers, even caused some jealousy?
Right, right.
Well, that feeling of being different, of being the odd one out, it was actually a big part of him finding his purpose, you know?
It's like that saying, if you're too comfortable, you're not growing.
Hmm.
So maybe those times when we feel a little out of place, a little uncomfortable, it's actually a good thing. Like we're being pushed in the right direction.
That's the idea. And speaking of being guided, another sign they talk about is those moments when you just know, like you can feel it in your gut, that something bigger is at work. Like when the perfect opportunity falls into your lap, or you just narrowly avoid some kind of disaster.
It's like a gut feeling you can't ignore.
Yeah, almost like a nudge from the universe or something.
Sexto Collado used the example of Moses and the burning bush,
Yeah.
which I've got to say is a pretty hard sign to miss.
Definitely. Though they also say it doesn't always have to be something that big and dramatic. Sometimes it's about noticing the little things, those weird coincidences, those subtle signs that, if you're paying attention, might be pointing you in the right direction.
So we've got to stay tuned in, really present in our own lives so we can pick up on those signs when they show up.
Exactly. And, they also talk about talents and abilities being a sign. Like, it's not just that you're good at something, but that those talents, those gifts, they're like tools that have been given to you for a reason.
So like if you're a naturally gifted teacher or you just have a knack for connecting with people, Texto Collado would say those aren't just random skills. They're strengths you're meant to use to make a difference.
That's the gist of it, yeah. And it's a pretty empowering way to look at things because it means we all have something special to offer. We've just got to figure out what that is and how to use it to help others.
It's like finding that sweet spot where your passion and your purpose overlap, right?
Exactly. And here's a thought. Texto Collado even suggests that going through tough times, facing challenges, could be another sign you're chosen. Not that the challenges are like punishments or anything, but that they're opportunities to learn and grow, to become stronger and wiser, and ultimately to prepare for something even greater down the line.
So it's like those times when you feel like you're being tested, pushed to your absolute limit, maybe that's actually a sign that something bigger is coming, something you're being prepared for. That's a pretty encouraging way to look at challenges for sure.
Absolutely. It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
The text uses the example of Job. Talk about facing challenges. But he never gave up, never lost his faith. And in the end, even though he went through all that, it actually led him to a deeper understanding of God and ultimately to even greater blessings.
Wow. It reminds me of how butterflies have to struggle to get out of their cocoons. It's that struggle that gives them the strength to fly. So, okay, let's say someone's listening to all this and thinking, okay, this resonates with me. I think I might be chosen. Now what? What does Texto Collado say people should do if they feel that call?
Well, they give some practical advice, and it starts with surrender. Not in a giving up kind of way, but more like a willingness to say, okay, I'm here. I'm open to whatever you've got planned for me.
Like saying, okay, universe, I'm listening. What's next?
Exactly. And along with that surrender comes the importance of staying connected to, whatever you consider sacred, whether that's through prayer, meditation, surrounding yourself with supportive people, or really honing those unique skills and talents you've been given. It's about putting in the work, trusting the process.
So it's less about just waiting around for your destiny to find you and more about actively participating in shaping it.
I think that's a great way to put it. And Texto Collado also emphasizes how important it is to find inspiration in the stories of people who have gone before us. People who followed their own paths, found their purpose, even when things got tough.
Like finding those stories that resonate with us can give us the courage to do the same.
Absolutely. But it's also important to remember that this whole journey, this whole idea of being chosen, it's not always easy. There are going to be times when you doubt yourself, when things are uncertain, even when you feel alone. And when those times come, Texto Calado reminds us to turn to, those ancient texts, those sources of wisdom and guidance that have helped people navigate challenges for centuries.
It's like having a roadmap, even when you're not sure where you're going. This has been a really incredible deep dive. Thanks so much for, taking this journey with me.
My pleasure. It's been fascinating.
And for everyone listening, we hope this has given you some things to think about, maybe even inspired you to look at your own life in a new light.
I think the biggest takeaway here is that maybe, just maybe, we're all chosen in some way. Like each of us has this unique spark inside of us, this potential just waiting to be shared with the world.
Now, that's a powerful thought to end on. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Keep exploring, keep those amazing questions coming, and we'll see you next time.